Hey everybody, it's Jake here, and this is the off-panel, off-topic review of God of War Ragnarok. I'm gonna get out of the way right away. This is spoiler-filled, so if you haven't beat the game, don't check out this review. Go play the game. Take as much time as you want. Take it slow. That's my best advice for this game. You're going to. It's done such a great job of making a lived-in world that you're going to want to take this slow and have these experiences. Because I think, I'm just going to have to jump right into it, I think. So yeah, let's do it. I will spoil the game, so please play the game first, finish it, and then come back. Because you should experience this story, because this story is pretty awesome, especially if you really liked God of War 2018, or you're somebody like me who's played pretty much every game. You're going to want to experience this story. So please do that first. No, I was just going to say, what's thoroughly impressed me about this game is God of War 2018. I did play after the story on my third playthrough. And yeah, there are some fun favors, but the favors in this, like the side quests of the game, are so thought out and so well made and are worth exploring. Like, I found out there's a whole quest line I didn't know existed. There's a whole region of the map of Vanaheim that I didn't know existed. And those have been some of the most fun favors I've done. So that's probably one of my biggest compliments of this game is the side quests are so well done and done so much that I keep playing the game well past beating it. Because I'm recording this late Saturday night, and I beat the game a week ago. So the Saturday after Thanksgiving is when I beat the game. So I've been meaning to record this for about a week, but the more I play, the more I want to hold off on the review because there's just so much I want to talk about. And I mean, Santa Monica Studio, I just can't believe they made this game. In a sense of, I can't believe this is a God of War game. Somebody that, like myself, who has played it, I hopped on in 2007, I think. So I've been playing this for 15 years. And I've shared the story before of having the demo disc of the first game where it's the first level when you fight the Hydra. And I just kept playing that level over and over again. And I never, ever picked the game up until the second one came out. And I just been blown away of how much this series has evolved and changed. Where it went to being very linear action-adventure game to semi-open world RPG elements in the last two games. And that's just in a crazy change. And kind of what makes this series so special is Kratos has become one of the most compelling, interesting characters in any medium. And it just shows you amazing character work, especially in this game. Man, the performances in this game. If you can't tell, I really enjoyed this game. When people talk to me about it, I try and tell them I'm trying my hardest not to have recency bias or hyperbole. But this is probably my favorite game of all time. Like, I'm not joking. This game has excelled on so many things that I wanted or thought I would want from a God of War game that I was just incredibly blown away at what it was able to do. And I think it's a testament to the writing, the level of detail, and like every realm feels different. And the fact that we got to be in all 9 realms is just really cool. Now, granted, there are some exceptions there's the Odin favor. There's not really a realm. You just show up and you see the ravens. That's it. And you only can access Asgard in the story. So you can't quite experience all 9 realms, but that's fine. I think I mean, Vanaheim alone, which I think is my favorite realm, is such a cool, exciting, interesting, different feel for a God of War game that I just absolutely love. Like, all of the side quests have been awesome. The fact that I was literally just doing a side quest where I'm following a trail, and the next thing I know, I'm floating in the air and I get attacked by a dragon. And then that sets a new quest line of going after this dragon, and there's just so much detail and care put into the side content, let alone the story. It's just unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. And I also want to talk about just the gameplay in general. How they've made these realms, these worlds that I'm very interested in and I want to explore. And I want to find these secrets and find all of the side quests. Like, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I have seen a title on YouTube of this video of saying the obtainable platinum trophy is what makes this game even better. And I think that's true. I think that's 100% true. The fact that this, for a guy like me who does, like, I used to trophy hunt, but as I've gotten older, I've just not really wanted. If I can beat a game on my certain difficulty that works for me, I don't want to go back and play it on the hardest difficulty, because I always joke, life's hard enough, play on easy, and that's true. I still believe that. So the fact that I can't miss trophies, like there's still an ability to get all of the trophies and get the platinum, has definitely interested me. But I think really the side content has kept me so much interested after the game, and that's just something I never thought I'd ever experience with a God of War game, especially the scope of this game. This game is a big game. It's a long game, but it's paced well enough for me that I didn't feel like the game was too long. I will say at the end, it felt a bit rushed pacing wise, but I think they were just trying to wrap up the story, and man, it just everything. I mean, the fact that when we open this game in the story. Well, no, hold on. I want. There's so much. I keep getting ahead of myself. There's so much I want to talk about with the story, but I do want to talk about the gameplay, because the game, like having a great story and environment and things, that can go a long way. I love Bethesda games. I think they do a great job of environmental storytelling and world building, but they don't look the best. Sometimes they don't control the best. To have something where there's so much story and lore and world building, but it also plays like this game does, is just crazy. Because the combat is just... Every single God of War game has had very, very good combat, but this is taking it to a whole new level. Because God of War 2018's combat was awesome and different and new and had a familiar feel of the other God of War games, but still played fresh. And even in this game, you are so much stronger, and the parry system and the different mechanics that you can play with, adding in the drop near spear, adding another element, making a spear feel like a really useful weapon. And like I use the drop near spear quite a bit. And I feel bad because I don't use the axe nearly enough, because I mostly use the blades and the spear. And that just talks about how much this combat is developed and how they use companions in this game, and how Atreus still plays like he does in the first game, but he's stronger and has different abilities. And then the fact you can play with Freya and have her, like, there's just so much depth added to the combat. And then there's the runic abilities, and there's the one, I can't think of the name of it, but you have like a revive stone, but you also have a stone where you can use Mimir as like a freaking laser beam, which is cool. You can also slow down time at some points. Like, it's just there's so much extra layers and depth to the combat. It's unreal. I will say that was one of my pet peeves in the last game, and it's a pet peeve in this one. But it's such a small thing. The menus, I don't like. There's just so much going on, menu-wise and lore and combat. Like, it can be a little overwhelming, I felt like. nothing to deter me from enjoying the game. I just felt like there's some times where there's like, oh man, there's just so much information coming at you. And I still don't think I've quite learned the gear system. And I didn't really in the other game, but it's fine. The game still plays incredible. And I have nothing but good things to say about the combat and the gameplay. I mean, overall, if you can't tell, I really, really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't expect... Well, I guess I did and I didn't, but I didn't expect the emotional moments that happen in this game. And let's just go to the story now. There's so much going on. I mean, you literally start the game fighting Freya, which is so crazy. And I always think about, when I was thinking about this game, I watched Skill Up's review, and he said the first game, God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, are enhanced by each other. And it's so true, because this game doesn't have to do what the other game did. And the other game had to slowly lead you into this new combat system for God of War, this new lore, this new little open world elements. This game already knows you've been through that or understand that and just throws you in, and it just works so well. Like the first thing that you do when you fight Freya, and you're on the sled with the wolves on it, and it's just from the jump it's cinematic. And then we follow that up with a vicious fight with a bear that we then find out is Atreus, because we also know that he's Loki, and we know that he can turn into other animals, and that actually comes back in a cool way a couple times throughout the game. And there's just so much that I love about it. And then right after the Freya confrontation, we meet Thor right away. I was like, holy, we go Freya, bear, then we have the confrontation with Thor, and this is all within the first couple hours of the game. And I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be so much different than what I expected, or going to be so much bigger than I could have ever imagined. And it was. This game, again, I've talked so much about the realms and the favors and the side quests. It's because, I never thought, when I was playing God of War back when I was 13, playing the Greek saga on the PS2 and the PS3, I never would have imagined we'd be here with God of War Ragnarok. And again, that says so much about the writing and the characters and what Santa Monica Studio is able to do. It's just unbelievable how good the story is. But we meet Thor, and then we meet Odin all in one moment, and it's really cool because they understand there is a perception to Thor and a perception to Odin because of Marvel and the MCU. So they have to come out and introduce these characters that are a little bit more tied to Norse mythology itself, and show them what they're portrayed in those stories. Thor's an alcoholic asshole. That's just who he is. Odin is this frail, annoying old man that that doesn't care about anybody but himself. And when you boil it down, the plot is he just wants to know if Ragnarok is true, how to change Ragnarok. And it's never about Asgard itself. It's specifically about Odin. And I love that so much. And the Thor fight is so damn cool. And the Thor fight where he kills you and you go to a fake death screen was awesome. Just awesome. I love it when games play with that idea. I think of the first Arkham game with the broken game, frozen game fake out. Similar here, when Thor hits you and you go and you die, which, by the way, I was mashing the button. I was like, there's no way that he did this. There's no way he killed me. And then I find out that I'm dead. Here's the loading screen. And then, oh no, I say when we're finished, and uses fucking Mjolnir as a defibrillator to wake me up. Just incredible stuff. And that right there, that fight and that moment solidified this game for me. In hour maybe 1 or 2, first of all, I was already excited and was going to be into this game because I'm a big God of War fan. But to have that opening, have that fight with Thor where you freeze a fucking lightning bolt and then you come back to Midgard later and that lightning bolt is still fucking frozen, that shit is just the level of detail that goes into this game is just incredible. And within that first hour, I was hooked. And again, I should have checked the clock before I recorded this. If I do have the clock, I'll mention it later, or I'll put it in the description. Whatever it is, I know I've at least put, I would say probably in the ballpark of about 40 hours into this game, and there's still plenty more that I could do. Like it's still a massive game, but I was in, and then the story took some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. Some of it I enjoyed, some of it not so much, but I don't know. I don't think any of it's bad. I really don't. But it reminds me a lot of Red Dead 2, where narratively I understand why this game takes such a long time, but at the same time it's like there's some sequences I think could have been shortened up. But then again, when I have a second thought to it, I was like, I don't know, maybe that added to it. Maybe I think I cared more to it. Like the fact that you play as Atreus a few times throughout this game, not surprising, given that it's a sequel to that other game. And I think most people, myself included, would have been totally fine with not controlling Atreus and just playing as Kratos the whole time. Would have had no problem with that. However, I do like that they did this, and this is something new in the series. And now I will totally agree with anybody that says he doesn't play as well as Kratos does. I think that's a fair critique, but I don't absolutely hate it. I know there's some people online that just loathe the Atreus sections. I don't. I think Ironwood probably goes a little bit too long, but that length also, I think, develops more of a rapport with me, with the chemistry with Atreus or Loki and Agrabota. And I'll pull up the cast list. The girl that plays her is great. And really the whole cast is great, if we're being totally honest, but I think she really hits it out of the park. It's Layla DeLeon Hayes is who plays Agrabota. She's great. Really everybody cast is great. And while I have the cast list, I just want to give a couple shout outs. Alistair Duncan as Mimir. Mimir is just such a phenomenal character. And again, a character you wouldn't really think you'd fall in love with. It's a disembodied head, but sure enough, he is one of the best characters. And the bond between him and Kratos that is shown throughout this game, of like these two guys, well, this guy and this head, really do care about each other, and they treat each other with respect. Kratos calls him brother, and actually like looks at him as someone to help raise Atreus. Because it's weird, because Mimir is kind of Atreus' adopted dad, which is really cute at the end of the game, that because you're playing as Atreus after the big moment happens where Ragnarok smashes into Asgard after you've killed Odin, and you just flash as white, and then you wake up as Atreus. And he, there's a dialogue moment, and Atreus, pretty much says, "You've been like a second dad to me." And he's like, "Oh, brother." Or he goes, "Oh, lad." And it's just like, oh, Mimir. He's great. I got to give another shout out to Danielle Bussetti, I believe is her name. Her performance as Freya is amazing. Christopher Judge again kills it as Kratos. And I've seen the rumors flying around that are the social media interactions where he's saying he's trying to campaign to be Kratos in the TV show. I don't have a problem with it. The dude is still pretty in pretty good shape. I mean, they used his body as the model, so I could see it. I'd love to see it, honestly. I think he would kill it. He's fantastic. And there's some moments in this game with the performance capture where I'm like, oof, I'm feeling it. Like, when you first play when you first go to Vanaheim, because it's interesting that you get all 9 realms, but not quite, as I mentioned earlier. But what also is interesting is you can only unlock these realms through story interactions. So unlike the first game where you had like a couple that were story related, and then there was like Muspelheim and I want to say Alfheim because you can't Vanaheim, Svartalheim. Probably saying that wrong, even though I've heard it a million times. The dwarf realm essentially, and Asgard. We're not in the first game, so that's new. But anyway, excuse me. It's a story mission where Atreus stays back with Brock and Sindri, and you go off with Freya because she's like, I'm not going to be able to help you. If you really were trying to recruit me to fight Odin and Ragnarok, I'm not going to be able to help if I'm still bound to Midgard. So they have to go to Vanaheim to free her, and that's her home realm because she was a Vanir god. And that whole lead up to Kratos trying to recruit her to his cause is so good and so well written. And it was really cool as someone who has played. Now, the only two games I haven't played are God of War: Ghost of Sparta and God of War: Ascension. Because for me, after I finished God of War 3, that was it for Kratos. And I know the other two games were prequels, and I was like, I just don't care. Like, for me, it ended when you killed Zeus in God of War 3. And I was ready to move on, and so those are the only two I haven't played. I played Chains of Olympus because I had a PSP at the time, and let's be honest, I was still feeling that God of War 2 high, waiting for God of War 3. So, of course, I played that. But I digress. I'm sorry this review is a little all over. It's really hard for me to just truly express how much I enjoyed this game. But the section is, Kratos telling her his past in Greece, where he had a family and he was tricked by Ares and killed them. He had a brother. And the more he kind of breaks down and has that conversation with Freya, there's more of the facade for her to come down. And the more that she realizes that, Kratos has sacrificed a lot. Maybe not as much as she has, but he has sacrificed a lot. And at this point, you're starting to see, Kratos open that doorway a little bit and be honest with her. And there's a great moment that it culminates when Freya finally joins up with Kratos and agrees to help him in this fight against Asgard and the fight against Odin. It's a great moment. It made me tear up because it was just so well acted by Freya and Kratos. And I know that's not their names, and I've already said the actors' names. But Christopher Judge, especially in this scene, man, does he deliver a great moment. Because Freya says, I went after you and attacked you because, as we know in the first game, he kills Baldur. She didn't want Baldur to die. There's this whole confrontation, and she starts to apologize, and Kratos cuts her off. And, again, the performance by Christopher Judge is just top-notch because she starts to explain herself, and he goes, you don't have to explain. Not to me. And my eyes welled up because I'm like, this dude has suffered so much. And this whole game, they keep driving home the point of be better. That was the point of the first game. That's the point of this game. They have to be better. I mean, at the very end, Kratos is even pleading to Thor, we don't have to fight each other to the death. For our kids, we can be better. And it's just like such a great moment. And yeah. Well, and I think that the biggest moment, too, for me with Christopher Judge's performance and the story is we finally get to see Faye in this. We see why Kratos is the way he is in the Norse world and how Faye kind of broke down those walls for him. And we have this moment where they're in Midgard, they're in the camp. It's about ready to have the final siege on Asgard and have the Ragnarok happen. There's a scene where there's two tents, and Atreus is like, 2 tents, and Freya's like, yes, each warrior should have their own quarters and sleeping space for the battle or whatever. And then it's a nice moment because you're sitting there as Kratos and you're getting ready to go to the next scene, and then Atreus comes out. And you got to keep in mind, too, I mean, throughout this game, there's a good chunk of the game where Atreus is in Ironwood or Atreus is in Asgard, and we're seeing Atreus. We're playing as Atreus. We're being with Atreus outside of Kratos and experiencing his story. And while this is still, no mistake, Kratos' game, but it's also a story about Atreus. And it's always been a story about those two. And it's done in an interesting new way to bring him into the story. But at this point of the story, he's been kind of all over. And that beautiful moment of him being like, can I sleep in here? And it's like, oh, it's so good. And there is a moment of Kratos just being a parent, and you're seeing how much Kratos loves his son. When he starts to tell his son a story, because his son is restless, he can't sleep, and he tells a story, and basically he's talking about himself, where he's talking about a man who used to get logs and wish for death to come and want death to come, and then death shows up, and the man says, I'm not ready, pretty much. And again, Kratos is almost to tears, and you see it in the performance because of how good the performance capture is with Santa Monica Studios. You see it in the face of Kratos. You see him fear losing his son. You see him fully just proud of his son, and all he can think about is what he can do to protect him. And it's such a beautiful moment. It's such a true, honest parent moment. And this is coming from someone who's only been a parent for 8 months. But I can tell you that I've had those thoughts. I've looked at my son the way that Kratos has, and that overwhelming emotion and pride and love, and that thought of you'll do anything to protect your kids. And that's one of the biggest themes biggest themes is, and again, what I love so much is Kratos and Atreus are so driven by their goals and driven by who they are, and they're so afraid of fate, and they're so afraid of losing each other, and it's just man, the story of this game, and I'm missing things that I would love to talk about, and are there, maybe there's other videos that we'll make about this game, or I'll talk about this game, but there's just so much that could be said about this story, and it truly is raising the bar of cinematic storytelling in video games, just storytelling in video games, general performances, what actors can do in this space and what writers can do in this space. And I really hope this continues the trend of, these big groundbreaking God of War games changing how we perceive action adventure games, changing how we perceive storytelling in video games, and again, the cinematic flair that is put into these games. And other criticisms of this game, sure, I think once again, the fast travel waypoint system is at times a little clunky. The compass at first can take some getting used to, and I still think there's a little bit of a learning curve to it. But at this point, if playing as many hours as I have, I've learned to just deal with it and learn how to work with it, and things like that. But the game is not perfect, but for me, it is. A lot of people can have their gripes with it and criticism with it. I don't necessarily see that. I see a very polished, well-made game. Do I have annoyances with some of the gameplay? Sure. Is there some annoyances with the enemy types? Yeah, but that's any video game, so I don't really think that's a criticism. Overall, my opinion on God of War Ragnarok, what a phenomenal game. What a phenomenal performance by this cast. Amazing script from the writers. Amazing gameplay for the people that work on the combat. I mean, just all around, it's an amazing team effort. Eric Williams' direction is should be applauded as well. I think a lot of people, were nervous of Eric taking over in this game and not having Corey be the guy as the director, but this is nothing new. I mean, Corey is the only one that has returned as a director in the franchise. Every single game since God of War 1 has had a different director, and it still worked because it still has that God of War ingrained DNA in all of these games that, while I think Eric had a great job of direction, I think you can see a director's flair and approach to it. There's still that hard God of War DNA that that works for this game. And and based on the interviews, I think Eric's what he's done is, again, very wise. Like he had, based on what I've heard about his narrative choices, he's very wise and he knows what he's doing. He's been with Kratos maybe even longer than Cory Barlog, if not, at the very least, as long as Cory, if not longer. Because I'm pretty sure he's worked on maybe not every single God of War game, but almost every single game in terms of, I think it's combat is what he's been a combat lead, if I remember correctly. But regardless, Eric's been with the franchise forever, and you can see that because he's making callbacks to. I saw him do an interview with Kinda Funny, and he talked about like the third weapon. There was a big discussion. He goes, "I'm going to take it all the way back to his Greek era and make a spear, and the Draupnir spear fucking rules. It's a great spear." And I've said it over and over again. The 3 weapons in this game all work very well, and what makes this game... I keep trying to wrap this up, and I keep thinking of more things I love. But what I also love about it is it continues to step up that combat, which I didn't think you could top. The combat in God of War 2018 was so well made, so damn good. I just didn't think you could do it. And then I'm even going back to the trilogy. God of War 3, the culmination of the combat in God of War 3 is so good. And then to see 2018's combat, and then to see it get even more evolved here in this game, just says so much about the combat design, the level design. Just so much goes into this that I love. If you can't tell, God of War Ragnarok is a fucking awesome game. And I love it very much, and I can't recommend it enough. And I know I've spoiled it for you, some aspects of it, majority of the big plot points of the story. Well, shit, I didn't even get to talk about the World Serpent and how they created the 2 timelines in this game with the World Serpent. Because if you remember in God of War 2018, when you first see the World Serpent and he sees Atreus, he says, "You look familiar." And then we see the scene in Ironwood where we find out that Agrabota, her destiny was to give Loki the souls of the giants, because the giants weren't slaughtered completely. The ones that did survive, they said, well, either we stay here and get killed by Odin, or we can pretty much download our consciousness into these marbles and give them to Loki. It's supposed to be the guy that leads the giants into the promised land and leads them. And then to have him put that in the snake, and then that sets up the World Serpent. Because then we see him fight Thor in Asgard, and then we see Thor hit him, and he just blinks out of the sight. So now it's like, oh, did Thor really knock him back in time like Mimir said he would or was supposed to? Like, again, just that level of detail and care is just over the top. It's one of a kind. Absolutely play God of War Ragnarok. It is once another... We saw it with 2018. We see it again here. Once in a generation type game. And the fact that it was cross-platform on PS4 and 5... and worked. I played it on PS4. It ran perfectly fine on PS4. Didn't have any performance issues. Still looked great. Now, of course, the PS5 version is going to look better in terms of, 4K graphics and ray tracing and all that stuff. But I still think if you play the PS4 version, you're still going to have a great time like I did. So there you go. That is my opinion on God of War Ragnarok. If I were to rate it, I would give it 5 God of Wars out of 5. There you go. Also, props to Ragnarok showing restraint, because everybody thought Thor would fall to Kratos after Kratos uses Mjolnir and wields Mjolnir. They decided to go against it, and again, Eric Williams' decision on that, he said no because it's too obvious, and narratively, the Leviathan axe is meant to be the opposite of Mjolnir and fight Mjolnir, and it works. So anyway, go check out God of War Ragnarok. You probably have at this point. I know this video is coming later than most, because I wanted to experience the game. I wanted to enjoy the game. I wanted to give it that slow burn, because I've been waiting to play this game for 4 years. So I really wanted to enjoy it while it lasts. So anyway, what did you think of God of War Ragnarok? You've played it, you've beat it. What did you think about it? Am I going too far over the top with my praise? Am I not giving it enough praise somehow? I don't know how you couldn't. I just spent 35 minutes gushing about this game. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever. Comment down below. Let me know. Click that subscribe button as well. Click the bell so you know when videos like this go live and you can get them right away. Thanks so much. And who knows when I'll ever do a video game review again. But thanks for hearing me out for this past 35 minutes. And we will see you very, very soon here on Off Panel, Off Topic. Oh, also, he doesn't say boy in this. I totally forgot to bring that up. Boy. It's Atreus now. So, it's growth. Shit, how could I even forget about the part where at the end of the game where Loki leaves you and you say,
Loki will go. Atreus remains.
fuck, this game's good.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.